What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex, and this video I want to talk a little bit about Don't Nod. Go over their main thing that happened today, which was their kind of financial statements. They talked about this Netflix deal that's very interesting. It's probably the most positive thing, that comes out because, beyond that, and I want to talk about, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, that suffered. I don't think that did well. In fact, they admit that game did not do very good. So kind of have a really good thing to talk about, and really I guess I have to pick for you, but let's start with the bad. Let's get the bad out of the way, and then we'll move into the good. So look, if you read these financial statements, okay, and some people do very good summaries of it. I've read those. I also just read it myself. There's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of different kind of, I don't know if you would say graphs, but just a lot of numbers being thrown around. What you really should take away from this, okay, is that Don't Nod's struggling, and I just kind of want to put it to you bluntly like that. I think some people might dance around it. Look, I care about these people. These people have made some very impactful games to me. Obviously Life is Strange 1 is one of my favorite games of all time, but I've said before, in terms of the quality, Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, that was the Don't Nod is back moment. That was a Don't Nod is back moment a year before Lost Records, okay, which I actually thought Banisher's was like 30 times better than Lost Records. So I am a fan, and I want them to keep going, and a thing to not lose here as we go through this, I want the creativity to keep going. Like, I want the Jasons and the Tell Me Whys. Like, I am a fan of these games, and I do think they need to start figuring out how to make money. They need to start to honestly go for a bigger demographic, which I don't think they're very good at doing, but they need to do that. Otherwise, I think they're going to be screwed, and you can kind of get that if you read through this stuff. Well, some of the main takeaways, okay, pretty much every quarter or every half, they're losing money. Every single time they post these things. For the first 6 months of 2025, their operating revenue was actually 5% lower than the first half of the year before. And this time they had Lost Records. And I guess last time, technically, they had Banishers, which correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember them talking about Banishers just did pathetically bad for them and didn't sell. Banishers, nobody bought the game, and that made me very sad to the core. If you felt bad for them then, you should feel even worse for them now, because Lost Records also seemingly did not sell. Now, what basically they say is any money they made, I think they say a very strong increase in revenue, which rose 3.8-fold, was driven by Bloom and Rage. So pretty much, if they made money from this first half, oh, you better bet that Bloom and Rage had something to do with it, right? Now, whether it was the PlayStation with PS Plus, whether it was that nice little contract that I'm sure helped them, or whether it was just sales, okay? If they made money, Bloom and Rage had something to do with it. And, that is good, but the issue is they're still losing money. They lose money pretty much every time. They're writing off losses all the time. Actually, I think at the very, very bottom, they've lost, maybe like 35 people. They fired about 35 people from June of 2025 to June of 2024. Look, you can look at it yourself. I mean, I'll link it. Maybe I'll link it in the description if you guys want to go through it. But bottom line is they are struggling. Like, Bloom and Rage made them as much money as it possibly could, but it didn't make them enough. They do say that it underperformed, and so that is a big one, right? Like saying, okay, well, it did so well, it made us so much money. In fact, any money we made was because of Bloom and Rage. That's one thing, but to also say, like, it performed below expectations, I think that was the exact line from it. That's a problem, because they went hard on Bloom and Rage. They basically had a studio kind of formed to do it. They had future plans for it. You can watch a lot of or read a lot of interviews that, like, Bloom and Rage as a franchise, it was heavily, like, internally, they were counting on it. They really wanted it to become something. And look, I want it to become something. I do not think it had that leg power, to kind of carry it. And to me personally, I felt that was rather evident when the game came out. Like, I think the people in our group, and I would say I think I'm part of it, and I think we're all kind of part of it. Like, I think generally, did people enjoy it? Yeah, but I mean, it just never felt like it broke out. And I think I even did like Steam charts, which are not like perfect or anything, but the game did, I believe on Steam, the game did like 3 times times worse than Banishers Ghost of New Eden, which, again, Banishers failed enormously. Jasant failed enormously. I like Jasant, by the way. So it's like if Lost Records does even worse than those on Steam, yeah, it's probably driven mainly through PlayStation, but that I don't think that can save them. And the quick answer is I'm right. It did not save them. So, okay, that's really all the bad. In terms of the future for Lost Records, man, I mean, when a game does what they say, like, look, if a game underperforms, if they admit that, the odds of you getting more are, I would say, very, very low. Even though they were so high on it, a year ago, even less than a year ago, when a game, they admit, underperforms, I don't see how you go to investors and when you're posting losses and you just seemingly cannot break through to the mainstream, I don't know how you go to them and say, okay, our genius plan is to make Lost Records 2, and they'll say, well, didn't Lost Records 1 not make us a lot of money or maybe even lose us money? And they would say, well, yeah, but we kind of had a trilogy plan. So, I can keep going, but hopefully you get, what I'm getting at. So that was the big negative, and to be fair, that is a gigantic negative. They need to figure it out, and they need to figure out how to, like I said in the very beginning of the video, they got to break through. They got to find a major thing to a major audience and run with it. Now, okay, well, let's go to the positive. The one big thing that quite literally actually is they signed a deal with Netflix. Now, Netflix is publishing this game. I found that interesting. They say that in the financial statements. The Montreal team is making it, and they're currently making it. So this is not something they started like a couple weeks ago. This is something that has probably been in the works for a little while, and they're making a game based off a major IP from Netflix, and it's going to be in line with what Don't Nod does best. That's a little bit of a paraphrasing, but they talk about like using Don't Nod's strengths, what they're good at, to like highlight, that major IP. Myself, as well as many other people, I think would speculate Stranger Things. I thought for like a split second about Wednesday. I thought maybe that would be, and like Addams Family. I don't know what that would look like, because I don't like Netflix is already doing like focusing just on Wednesday. Would you do that, or would you do? But I mean, I was trying to be just a little bit different because everybody, including myself, was saying Stranger Things. And by the way, I think that works. In fact, wasn't Telltale doing a Stranger Things game and that got canceled? So like this was already tried once, it just didn't make it very far. And the idea of this like supernatural element and also these kind of teens coming of age thing, well, if it doesn't sound any more closely related to a Don't Nod property, right? I mean, that's literally what they do, is it not? Is make coming of age stories between these teenagers and a group of friends and love interests potentially, right? And have supernatural things going on around them. I mean, Lost Records is actually kind of close already, I would say, to Stranger Things. So, no, I really think that makes the most sense. Wednesday was just, because you think major IP, I mean, run down your Netflix IPs that have to do with coming-of-age teens, and they have a lot of properties, but I think when you narrow it down to that, there's not that many, and Stranger Things just, like, sticks out like a sore thumb. So, I would like to believe it's that. I think that's kind of up the alley. And so, okay, to end the video, and to be fair, I think I was quite critical, but to also kind of come around, what I just said Don't Nod needs to do, it sounds like they might be doing. They need to pivot. They need to find a big thing that can resonate with an audience larger than a couple 100,000 or million. And by the way, I'm not saying those as insults. Like, Life is Strange started like that, and it became a freaking phenomenon, right? Banishers Ghost of New Eden is one of my favorite games of the last 5 or so years. One of the best written games between those two characters. Holy dear God. Like, they can do it. And now, actually, I think they have lost some of the people that did Banishers, so my confidence is not as high as maybe as it was back then, but I do think they're capable. And also, it's like, it's not that I don't like those attempts, or don't like the attempt at Lost Records, but the fact is, you want them to do these kind of, creative adventures, that they're capable of doing. Yeah, that's great, but if you keep losing money every time, you are quite literally not going to be around anymore, so you have to find something that can break through. And I get it. Like, maybe going for 5 million people versus 1, it's going to be more mainstream. Maybe you'll lose some of the feel. I understand that, but at the same time, if you keep going down this road, I think you're done. I think you're toast as a company, and then you won't get any games. So it's like maybe let them try this, let them go bigger and for a more established thing, and then maybe you can, negotiate and get back to lost records later, or just something else, in general. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and hope to see you all on the next one.